Today we're going to be taking a look at how Legio Osedax plays out on the tabletop in the game Adeptus Titanicus. I have to admit, this Legion totally took me off guard. I was not expecting such a rich backstory and lore to them. If you're interested in more, then check out Osedax's lore video on the channel, but in terms of their rules, there's actually quite a lot of pretty good stuff here to base a list off of. That being said, let's dive in. The Legio specific trait for Osedax is called Reforged in War. Basically, all of your Osedax Titans are immune to any modifiers to their command checks and immune to any effects that would force them to re-roll those command checks. So these guys can reliably get orders off. Currently, this isn't that big of a thing. For a Legio trait, this one's kind of underwhelming, but I suspect that when the Trader book comes out, there's going to be a lot of command check modifying going on, and this might actually turn out to be something pretty good. Just for the time being, it's not really anything to build a list around. Osedax has two specific stratagems you can select for the Legion. The first one's called Relentless March for one stratagem point, so it's as cheap as it gets, and this one lets you automatically issue your Titans a full stride order without needing to do a command check. This is frankly underwhelming, especially considering Osedax has really strong command check ability in their Legio trait, but where it could be useful is it allows you to ignore difficult and dangerous terrain. So if you're playing on a board with a lot of that, this could be handy just to get your full stride orders off early in the game. The next Legio specific trait is called Blood Begets Blood, and this one is expensive, coming in at a whopping 3 stratagem points. It's going to take basically everything you've got, and this is for the most part going to be the only stratagem you can play in a game. But this one's really exciting and frankly very powerful with the right guns on the table. How it plays out is after one of your Titans suffers critical damage, you can play this stratagem, and immediately after the effects of that critical damage are resolved, your whole mana pool gets a free shot on the closest visible Titan to each Titan in your mana pool. After they attack in this way, they just advance the reactors 2 positions in addition to any pushes they'd have to do to fire the weapon, like say you're firing with a volcano cannon. This is really powerful, and if your positioning is right with all of your Titans and they all have a viable target, and you've got some big guns on the table, you can cripple your opponent in one round with this. Takes a bit of play, but I can definitely see ways you could build a list around this one. Osedax actually has some Legio specific war gear, and this one goes beautifully hand in hand with their stratagem Blood Begets Blood. Each one of your Titans at 20 points a Titan can be upgraded with something called Plasma Channels, and what these do is let your Titan vent a seriously good amount of heat, and they can do this once per game. So in a movement phase, you can activate the Titan's one-time ability of using its plasma channels and vent D3 +1 positions off of its reactor track. Where this would really shine is, say you've used Blood Begets Blood and a bunch of your Titans have shot off volcano cannons or maximal fired their Sun Fury Annihilators. The following movement phase, you can just use their plasma channels and vent all of that heat they just built up the previous round, getting those double hits off. There's a great synergy here, and yeah, it's a points investment and it's a stratagem point investment, but these two synergize really well. When it comes to personal traits for your Osedax Princeps Senioris, these ones are actually decent. I've seen some legions with some pretty bad personal traits. and 2 out of 3 of these actually have a pretty good use on the tabletop. The first trait's called Natural General, and you would use this trait in the strategy phase. After your Princeps Senioris has been successfully issued an order, you can give that order to one additional Titan in your mana pool without the need of doing a command check. This is probably the worst of the 3 you can pick from. Again, with their Legio trait reforged in war, these guys aren't really going to have issues getting orders off depending on the Titan, but this could be handy if you wanted to run a Warhound heavy list, just because their command value is so low. But I'm more interested in looking at the other 2 personal traits you can pick from. The next trait you can pick is called Careful Planner, and depending on how you like your stratagems, this one's actually pretty interesting. Once per game, the Osedax player can reuse a 1-point stratagem. Now, typically, you can only purchase each stratagem once, and this will let you reuse a 1-pointer twice. And where it gets even more interesting is if you've selected a 1-point stratagem that you can reuse for the duration of the game, you actually get to use it twice that strategy phase. This could be pretty interesting to mess around with your opponent, and I'm going to be coming back to this one a little later. The last personal trait is called Lightning Assault, and this is some redeployment funny business that a Osedax player can use. So after both players have deployed, but before you figured out which one of you is going first, the Osedax player can redeploy any of their Titans 6 inches away from where they're currently sitting. The downside of this is any Titan moved in this way can't be issued orders the first round of the game. This one's pretty situational for me. I mean, it would be great if it didn't cost you an order, but you could mess around with your opponent. Say you deploy all of your Titans really aggressively, and then you just hide them behind cover. Your opponent thinks they have a good shot on you, and they end up with no visibility. I gotta say, I would rather keep my flexibility to issue full strides and first fire turn 1 than get a bonus 6 inches of a redeploy. Like, smart positioning, you're not going to need something like this, and frankly, the cost just feels a little too high for me to lose that flexibility turn 1. Okay, now that we talked about all the fun rules for the Legio, we'll get to the part most of you are probably here for. How on earth would I use these guys? Well, if you listen to the lore video, you probably know that Osedax is a majority of their Titans are Reavers, and these Reavers really like their close combat weapons. I happen to agree with the rule set and the lore that a Reaver actually does lend itself quite well to a lot of what Osedax is at least supposed to do. So this list will be largely based around Reavers. In fact, I think the Reaver is such a good fit, I'm going to take a lot of them. This will be my attempt at a somewhat competitive list, and if you guessed it, I'm going to be basing it off of a Corsair mana pool, which is 3 to 5 Reaver Titans. The Reavers are a nice mix of speed and armor, and they have a very diverse amount of weapons that you can pick from, which will make them great for using a few of Osedax's tricks. The personal trait I'm going to use is actually Careful Planner. This is the one that lets me reuse a 1-point stratagem, so I can use it twice in the game instead of once. I'm actually going to do something potentially stupid here, and it's going to work out more times than not. But I'm going to build this army list to a total of 1,500 points. The reason for this is I'm actually trying to hit the confrontation game levels underdog margin to give myself a total of 4 command points. To hit that margin, I'm going to need a difference of at least 200 points under my opponent. So I figure the odds of an opponent getting 1750 bang on are pretty slim, and I'm going to give myself an extra 50 points on that margin, just as a buffer to let me hopefully get this trick off more often than not. Now, this will give me a minimum of 3 stratagem points. Ideally, if my plan works out well, I'll have 4. And using that personal trait, Careful Planner, and after browsing all the 1-point stratagems, I did find one that's potentially pretty good that I'm going to want to reuse, and that is Blind Barrage. Regardless of whether I get that underdog margin or not, I will always, or would always, be taking Blood Begets Blood. That bonus shot for your whole mana pool is frankly just too good to pass up. So, to fulfill the minimum requirement of the Corsair mana pool, I need 3 Reavers. 2 of them are going to have the exact same loadout. They're both going to be Volcano Cannons, Laser Blasters, and Apocalypse Missile Launchers. Their job, for the most part, is just going to be to hang in the backfield or midfield and just pop shots off wherever they can, and ideally stay in good positioning to eventually use that Blood Begets Blood stratagem. This being a Corsair mana pool, they should be maneuverable and have no problem keeping a good line of sight on my opponent. The third Reaver is going to have a Chain Fist, a Melta-Cannon, and the Apocalypse Missile Launcher. Again, all the missile launchers just to help with shield dropping and ideally getting some shots on something that's not in line of sight. So I still had some room to play with here, and I was nowhere close to my restriction of 1500 points, and I decided to add another Reaver, again with the close combat loadout. So this one's got the Melta-Cannon, Chain Fist, and Missile Launcher once again. I didn't have enough points to sneak another Titan in there. I mean, maybe I could have got a Warhound. I probably could have got a Warhound in, but I like the idea of throwing in some Knights just as a distraction unit, and they're pretty quick and good at getting around and can actually be pretty scary for Titans if they get up close. To top it off and get as close as I can to that 1500 points, and again playing into the Legio Osedax rules, I have kitted all 4 Reavers out with the War Gear Plasma Channels. So at some point in the game, this will give every Reaver once per game the chance of venting D3+1 levels off of its plasma reactor. This actually totals up just under my target to a total of 1495. Now, I know that potentially gives my opponent a pretty good 200-250 point advantage, but I think with the stratagems, this list will actually play out pretty well and be potentially devastating. This is how I envision this list playing out on a tabletop. You're going to start off with your 4 Reaver Titans and the Knight Banner deployed. The Knight Banner, it's going to change from mission to mission, game to game, but they're either going to hang back and babysit the 2 Volcano Reavers, or they're going to charge ahead with the 2 Melta Reavers. Regardless, the Knights aren't really a big part of how this list works. They were just kind of a point fill. So, the start of turn 1. If I hit the underdog margin and I have 4 stratagem points to play with, I'm going to blind barrage one of my opponent's Titans, making their hit rolls harder by a modifier of 2. I'm going to advance the 2 Melta Reavers, possibly giving them full stride orders, but the Corsair mana pool is just going to help all of these Reavers move around as they need to because they're not restricted to move within their arcs. And the 2 Volcano Cannon Reavers left in the backfield, if they have good shots, or actually regardless, I will be giving them first fire orders, they're either going to be launching well, they'll most likely be launching the missile launchers to drop shields early. Now, again, if I hit that underdog margin, I'm going to take advantage of my Princeps Senioris trait in turn 2, Careful Planner, and I'm actually going to reuse Blind Barrage to, again, mess with my opponent's ability to throw shots at me. This is going to give those two advancing Melta Reavers a much better chance of getting up close to the enemy without taking shots. And the backline Reavers are probably going to be on first fire orders once again. If I'm lucky, they'll be first firing those volcano cannons. And the two Melta Reavers are just going to keep moving, making sure that they have a good line of sight on things at all times. Whether I'm pushing them for full stride, who knows, that'll depend. And at this point in turn 2, turn 3, it's quite likely that I've been pushing all of these Reavers for voids to full. So all 4 of these Reavers are potentially running at least in the middle of their plasma tracks, if not hotter. But we'll get to that in a bit. The important thing here is that all 4 of these Reavers are always maintaining at least one target for an option to shoot at, which having that Knight banner will be really handy for me in the activations, as I can always start off by moving that Knight banner, making my opponent move a Titan, and then I can always move a Titan off of theirs. Hopefully that banner lets me beat them in the activation game, and I can always keep a target in the crosshair of these Reavers. At some point in this game, one of these Reavers is going to take some critical damage. It might be turn 2, it might be turn 6, but I'm going to hold on to that and use the Blood Begets Blood stratagem whenever I've got everybody lined up and I suddenly take that damage. Even if I have, say, 3 out of 4 of these Reavers with a good target, when one of them takes that critical damage, I'll play that stratagem and give every Reaver a shot with some pretty heavy guns on my opponent. This is going to be a whole mana pool opening up with Meltas and Volcano Cannons, and this could be devastating if played right. Now, I had mentioned all of these Reavers are going to be running pretty hot. They may be full striding, they may be pushing for their weapons, and likely they'll have been pushing their void shields, going voids to full for 2 to 3 turns. At some point, they're all going to use their plasma channels that I upgraded, and they can individually vent D3+1 positions of heat whenever they need it. I suspect the plasma channels, for the most part, will be used after playing the Blood Begets Blood stratagem, but it's an option I can use at any point in time should one of these Reavers get hotter than I would have liked sooner than the rest of them for that Blood Begets Blood. Man, what a pleasant surprise. Caveat in advance, if you made it this far, here's your bonus. How I'm basically doing this is I yell at the wife, give me a number between 1 and 16, and that is the number of the Loyalist Legio I decide to cover. I knew nothing about Osedax before this, and I am actually humbly pleasantly surprised with how well this Legion works. They've got a lot of tools to kind of make a game plan and situationally adjust. And it's actually, I wish I had enough Reavers to actually play this Legion out. I probably never will, but if I did, this one's looking pretty good. To the Osedax players out there, please let me know if you got something better. I'm genuinely curious. And to the community as a whole, by all means, pick it apart. Like, this was just my pitch and the direction I would go in if I was actually to commit to fielding an army with this Legio. I hope you enjoyed it. More to come. I mean, we're just scratching the surface of the Legio book, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more interesting things from other Legios. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.